If you are launching your first product on Amazon and wondering how PPC actually works, this is the video you should have seen on day one. Most beginners lose money, and that's not because PPC is hard, okay? It's because they set it up wrong from the start. So welcome to Red Dog. We help Amazon brands launch, scale, clean up their PPC so they stop burning budget on campaigns that just don't convert. In this video, I will break down exactly how Amazon PPC works, how much it costs, and the correct step-by-step setup for beginners. Let's start simple. Amazon PPC is Amazon's internal advertising system. So when someone searches for a product, Amazon runs an auction to decide whose ads will show up. So what this means is you only pay when someone clicks on your ad, not when they see it, only when they actually make the click. That's why PPC is the fastest way to get early visibility, drive those initial sales, and ultimately improve your organic ranking, which is kind of the whole point. Most beginners think that the highest bid wins. It doesn't. Amazon also considers things like relevance, click-through rate, conversion, and just the overall listing quality. So a more relevant product with a lower bid can beat a bad listing with a higher bid. So it's why PPC isn't just about money, it's about the optimization. So how much do we actually need to spend on Amazon PPC then? And I think most beginner categories sit between 30p and £1 per click, maybe in the off season. A realistic starting budget is £10 to £20 per day as a minimum. I mean, obviously, the more money you spend, the greater your returns and the quicker you can kind of adapt and learn. But in that first week or that first launch period, your goal is to get as much data as possible. So you're discovering which keywords convert and which ones waste money. And the more money you can spend in that initial testing period, the better. One of the biggest beginner questions that we get is, do we start with automatic or manual campaigns? And I think it's important we understand the difference between both of them. So auto campaigns are great for discovery. Amazon will choose the keywords and you'll learn fast. It'll base it on the product detail page that you give it and similar products in the category. Okay, so you don't really get much choice about what keywords come through an auto campaign, but they're really, really good, especially because the performance can be great, but you also learn a lot. And if there are shifts in the way that customers are searching for your product, it will probably surface in the auto. Now, of course, on the flip side of that, manual campaigns just give you control. So you're picking the keywords, you're picking the bids and the match types. And, the best beginner setup is a happy medium between both. So, I mean, at the very least, I would be setting up at least one auto campaign for just data and general to give it a push, and then at least one manual campaign for control. So that's a good place to start. But obviously, depending on your budget and how keen you are to kind of push, that can kind of change. So let me walk you through the correct campaign setup. So step one, you would choose maybe 10 to 15 really relevant keywords manually for your product. So the exact terms that you think people are searching. And there are loads of different tools you can do this with, or you can just use Amazon's autocomplete search bar. I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to pick the most relevant and then kind of narrow down on what the top 5 to 10, maybe 15 are. Step two, before I even launch a manual campaign, I'd be launching an auto. Give it £10 to £15 budget just to start gathering some search term data, because the terms that you think might be the most relevant, it could surprise you what converts. So that's step two. Then step three, we're going to create the manual campaigns. And I would use exact match for our main keywords, to be honest, because if that's exactly what the customer's searching for, let's just go straight down the middle and get it. So we would also do some broad campaigns for additional discovery. But, if we're really starting quite tight, then I'd do exact match. Typically at Red Dog, what we would do is we would have the exact match campaigns for the main keywords, and then we would have broad match campaigns to also catch other variations. So that would be our kind of preferred starting point, but everyone's different. With the manual campaigns, breaking down to a similar root term so that they sit together. So for example, if we were looking at card games, for example, some of the keywords may differ slightly. So adult card games versus card games for children, I would have probably in different campaigns, because the keywords that surround adult card games might be different to the keywords surrounding card games for children. So just keeping it really clean. Maximum 5 campaigns, or 5 keywords, sorry, per campaign. So maximum 5 keywords per manual campaign, and then just stick to one match type per campaign only. So match types all work slightly differently. So you don't want exact phrase and broad all in the same campaign. It can get quite confusing and unhelpful for negations. And then I would also advise against having different match types in different ad groups in a campaign. So I'd have a fresh campaign for each match type. So one campaign, for example, would be exact manual, and one campaign would be broad manual, but I wouldn't have exact and broad mixed together. We do see it a lot on audits, and it's one of the quickest ways to lose money and lose control. So step 4, after 3 to 7 days, it really depends on how much you're spending, because the more data you have, the more easily you can come to certain conclusions. So after, the first week, for example, pull your search term report and begin to optimize your bids and your budgets. So if there's places where there's a really good ROAS, but you're running out of budget, you might want to assign some extra, or it might be that certain campaigns just aren't getting enough impressions and you need to increase the bids. But I would wait at least 3 to 7 days. And of course, it always depends. If you're spending thousands of pounds a day, you're going to be able to optimize a lot more quickly than you are spending £10 a day. So just to make sure we're crystal clear, in your first week, increase bids on terms that convert, lower bids on expensive ones that don't, and add negative keywords to stop wasting money. And that would be in your auto campaign. And if you've launched any broad or phrase campaigns, exact, you don't really need to worry about negatives as much. But as Amazon keeps moving the match types, don't quote me on that forever. And this pass alone will save beginners hundreds of pounds. And speaking from experience, it is usually the simplest things where accounts are bleeding the most. So good clean campaign structure and regular review are the 2 things that are needed. Just to touch on a few things to avoid as well, don't rely only on auto campaigns. Auto campaigns are fantastic. They have a really important role to play on accounts. They're not just discovery, they can be really good performance campaigns as well. However, auto alone will not really kind of get you where you want to go in the long term. The other thing is, don't skip on negatives. So negative keywords. We really need to kind of be reviewing especially our auto campaigns and any non-exact match campaigns very, very closely to make sure that we're not bleeding money on certain irrelevant keywords or, terms that may also crop up in certain products that just aren't relevant at all. And if you don't catch it, they can spend a lot of money. I would also say Amazon suggested bids, whilst a really good indication of how competitive a category might be, if you trust them blindly, you will spend all of your money. I often go in with half of an Amazon suggested bid just to kind of get a feel for how things are. It depends on lots of things like the product price, your break-even ACOS. It really does depend, but don't just trust Amazon bids blindly, because you'll end up spending more than you need to. I'd always advocate for, a conservative approach where you put the bid at half of what you think, Amazon suggested bid might be, and then inch up slowly, just making sure that you're getting the impressions. And then I think the thing that we say the most is PPC can't save a bad listing or a product that no one wants. So your images, really important. Customers have to be able to buy explicitly from the images. Just imagine that the rest of the listing doesn't exist to them. Make sure you're selling that product through the images. The other thing is reviews. So reviews will make or break a listing. If you're below 4 stars, generally your product is dead. There are exceptions to the rule. We've worked with brands where listings have a 3.5 rating and still fly out the door just because customers are loyal to certain brands, for example. But if you're not a big brand name or don't have a lot of loyalty behind you off of Amazon, it's not going to work. So images and reviews, really, really important. And just remember, relevance is probably one of the most important things. So make sure that, you've optimized your listing, that you're completely sure on the keywords you're using, and just keep up good habits, because most of the thing about Amazon is keeping good habits. I think one thing I'd like to leave everyone with is that Amazon PPC really doesn't have to be that confusing. If you follow this setup and you keep your first week focused on data and you avoid 90% of the costly beginner mistakes, you'll be okay. So if you want more PPC tutorials or deeper strategy breakdowns, make sure to subscribe. And if you need help cleaning up any of your campaigns or, actioning anything from this video, Red Dog PPC is always here to help. You can message me on LinkedIn or drop us an email, but we're here to help. Thanks.